What's your name and how do you spell it?
My name is Stephanie Morales, StephanieMorales.
And what is your role in Portsmouth?
Commonwealth Attorney.
Gotcha. And so first, going back to 2018, what was y'all's involvement? I don't know if you were here at that time, but what was your kind of involvement and how has it proceeded over the years?
Yes, I've been elected in this role since February of 2015, so it's been 8 years for me. And whenever there is any type of officer-involved shooting in the city of Portsmouth, I work with law enforcement to review the matter and then make a prosecutorial determination, which results either in the matter being presented to the grand jury, or oftentimes, we will review that matter and make a determination about what additional steps need to be taken. And in this instance, this was a matter where, upon reviewing the investigation from the Virginia State Police, I determined that my office also needed to undertake some additional tasking. And so in receiving the initial investigative file, that initial investigative file warranted some additional tasking, which took some time. And that tasking completed towards the end of 2022. And so at that point, you combine the investigative items, you combine that additional tasking and the results of that, and you look at the facts and the law, and that is what led us to the grand jury here in March of 2023.
And you talk about you work with law enforcement during this whole process. What does that look like? What does it take, just in generality, for you guys to and go to a grand jury? What do you guys need to collect? What does that look like as prosecutors when you take it to a grand jury?
So every case has its own set of circumstances. And what's required before going to a grand jury is making sure that you have an understanding of whether or not probable cause exists, to actually present it to that grand jury and ask them to render either a true bill or a no true bill to determine whether or not you would proceed forward to trial. And so in this and every instance, whenever a law enforcement body is investigating, it's my responsibility to look at that investigation and make a determination about whether I have everything that I need. Because ultimately I have to face this community, I have to face families, and I have to face a potential accused before I make any step towards a grand jury or not. And so in this case, I did just that, reviewed all of the facts, even brought in additional assistance from other personnel in my office to review everything and make a determination about what was needed. And once we had all of the information, in this instance, we felt it appropriate to go to the grand jury and let them make the decision about whether or not we would proceed forward to trial.
And for somebody who's watching that may not be in the system and doesn't quite understand, what step has this gotten to? You say indictment, what does this mean?
So an indictment is a charging instrument. And what that means is this is the instrument that, determines what's going to happen next. So we hear the term warrant, we hear the term indictment. Those are charging instruments, and that is the document that says you are hereby charged with this offense, and that's what we utilize to move forward with a trial. And so in this instance, the grand jury returned a true bill for voluntary manslaughter, and those are the charges that this individual will face when they go to trial.
And so for your office, what are the next steps? What does it look like moving forward?
So for any matter where the grand jury renders a true bill and there is an indictment that is issued, the court will then process that individual. There will be an arraignment where that individual will be read their charges, make a determination about whether or not they need court-appointed counsel, whether they will hire counsel, and the court will make bail determinations. And from there, dates will be set and the matter will move forward towards trial, where members of the community, hopefully if there is a jury trial, will take part in determining what will happen and what the outcome of this matter will be.
And I know you can't get into the case. I will just ask my question and you can take it generally or literally. But when you have something when it involves a police officer and somebody is, they charge voluntary manslaughter against a citizen in the community, is it important to hold this person accountable no matter what their job title is?
Absolutely, accountability is important, and I hold myself accountable to do whatever is appropriate regardless of who the perpetrator is. And so whether it's a member of the community at large, whether it's a member of law enforcement, I hold myself accountable to make sure that I'm doing the right thing by victims in this community.
And I'm guessing you talked about you have to do right by the family. Are you guys in contact with the family in this case? And how do you make sure you're doing right by them?
And so, I will, refrain from speaking specifically about any people who are impacted by this type of tragic event. But I believe it is very important to be in communication and to make sure there is an understanding about what is going on, the process, especially when it's something of this magnitude. It is not lost on me that this is hurtful. And no matter what we do, we cannot bring a loved one back. But I feel that it's very important to make sure that families are kept up to speed about the process, about what is going on, and that I provide whatever information is available without compromising the integrity of this prosecution.
And some would say, and I've heard the saying before of like, the wheels of justice take a while to turn. In this case, you see this is it happened in 2018, it's 2023. Could you kind of explain why stuff takes this long and that it might not be so unusual?
And so certain times we have things that move really quickly, and other times things take a bit of time to get to the point where we make a prosecutorial determination. For me, it's about getting it right. And for me, it's about getting all available evidence and information and getting a full understanding of what the facts and the evidence are and how that compares with the law. And again, making sure that this is done the right way. There is never any reason to delay if we don't have to. But if there is something that we have to do to get to the bottom of getting this right for all parties involved, I have a responsibility to do that.
And do you take these matters yourself, or do you have a team that helps you out with this?
I absolutely have a team that helps me out with this, but as you can see, whenever there is an incident where we have an officer-involved shooting, I am, directly involved with that up until the point where there's an indictment or there's a prosecutorial determination and I assign someone else. So I am always involved with officer-involved fatalities, but I certainly involve the members of my team to help with reviewing the information, providing additional sets of understanding and opinions and comparisons with the law, and also to conduct research and to just review everything to make sure that we are not missing anything.
And obviously you talk about looking at the law whenever these situations happen. How do you guys back that up with, like, you look at your evidence and you look at the law? How does that look when you guys do that?
So it's a real application. It's not just looking at what the law says, generally. We specifically look at the facts and circumstances of each matter, and we make a legal application. And we do this not just in officer-involved fatalities. We do this every single day on any case type that comes before us, because that's our responsibility. Because we have to make sure that when we are talking about a person's liberty and we are talking about someone's loved ones, that we are doing this the right way, in a fair and just way. So we do this on a consistent basis, not just with officer-involved fatalities, but with every matter that comes before us.
And for the community, what would you say for the Portsmouth community who is seeing this news, and some could be disheartened by it? I mean, it's tough to see. It's a tough reality that people of color experience in itself. What would you say to the Portsmouth community?
So for the Portsmouth community, my goal is always to be an advocate for accountability and to ensure that our community understands that this office is committed to keeping it safe, and that's from any and everyone who poses any type of threat to the community. This is about justice, this is about fairness, and ultimately this matter is going to be decided by the fact finder. That's either a judge or that's a jury that's comprised of members of our Portsmouth community. And so it's important for them to understand that this office moves in lockstep with the community and is committed to justice and accountability, no matter who that accountability is for.
And we don't know the next steps, but often folks say about courts, it's you all take an oath. It's very, I don't know the word. You all take an oath. The jurors take an oath. Why is the integrity of courts so important to keep people accountable?
Again, integrity of courts is everything, because we are talking about, One, people who have been harmed in some way. We're talking about people who have lost loved ones, and we're talking about a person's liberty. And so if we are looking to this system to provide fairness and justice, integrity is everything when it comes to this judicial process. And I think everyone, no matter where they sit, whether they have to be involved with this system or not, wants to understand that this judicial process is going to work fairly and justly for anyone who may have to come before, whether they are, someone who has been harmed, whether they're a loved one, whether they are the accused, or whether they're serving and doing their civic duty as a juror. They want to know that this process is fair and it's just.
Perfect. Those are all the questions I have. Is there anything you would like to say that I didn't touch on?
No, that's all.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Perfect.
All right.
I always like to ask that question. Sometimes that sparks a whole new debate in its
No.
own.
I'm very limited.
Perfect. Yes, I totally understand. That's why I ask questions kind of more about, just